Good morning. Good morning. I'm Richard Maraj, and it is a joy to be here. As Noosa mentioned, I came to work here as an associate minister at UCR 20 years ago, and I left 18 years ago. And I'm still coming back because I love this place. Raleigh's a great place. Some of my dearest friends in the world are here, and so my heart is happy every time I return. So Newsom, thanks so much for the invitation. So there's a husband and wife, and they have this big argument. Such a big argument that they're not speaking to each other. And after the third day of giving each other silent treatment, the husband remembers he needs the wife's help to get up early at 5 a.m. to catch a flight on a business trip to Chicago, but he doesn't want to be the first one to break the silence. So he comes up with a plan, and he thinks writing her a little note and putting it next to her bed, she'll see it, and then she will follow through without him having to break the silence. So he writes a note that says, "Please wake me up at 5 a.m. for an early business flight to Chicago," and puts it next to the side of her bed. No, she's going to see it. And so the next morning, he wakes up at 7:15, realizing he has missed his flight, and he's so angry and so upset, he's about to leave the bedroom to find his wife when he notices a note on his side of the bed that says, "It's 5 a.m., wake up." All right, so this morning we're going to talk about silence. So when you hear the word silence or think about silence, what thoughts and ideas come up for you? What kind of feelings come to you about silence? And I read an article, and it said one of our greatest fears, and one of the fears that we don't even realize that we have, is a fear of silence. And I was a little surprised about that. I think many of us can sometimes be uncomfortable with silence. And the question would be, why would we be afraid of silence? Why would we be uncomfortable with silence? You know, it's interesting, our culture is so busy, so fast. Go, 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 move, 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 do, do, do. Talk, talk, talk. That sometimes when there's silence, it's a little unfamiliar. It is a little awkward. And sometimes it can feel empty from all that activity to suddenly have silence. Sometimes we can feel really vulnerable. Sometimes silence can make us feel like we're alone. Sometimes silence forces us to feel things that we don't want to feel, and maybe face things that we don't want to face. And so uncomfortable are we with silence at times that we'll do anything to make some noise, keep the conversation going, play a little music in the background. Sometimes we turn on the TV when we're not even watching it. We just don't want there to be total silence, because at times I don't think we know how to deal with silence. And so even though we have these ideas and beliefs sometimes that silence is scary and it's negative and it's whatever it is, the truth is silence is one of the most amazing and powerful energies that there is. Silence is not only calming and soothing, it's healing. It is renewing. It is creative. It is absolutely transformative. You know, I believe that silence is one of the key factors for experiencing a deeper and more fulfilling spiritual life, a deeper and more fulfilling experience of love and joy and fulfillment. Now, to me, when we're uncomfortable with silence, it's because we misunderstand and we don't quite know how to handle it and utilize it in the most effective and wonderful way. You know, in the Bible it says that speech is silver, but silence is golden. It says it not only in the Bible, but I think they say it at the movie theaters as well. Don't they say silence is golden? And why would it be? Because silence to me is what connects us to spirit. Silence is what connects us to the source. Silence is what connects us to that intelligence and that creative power and wisdom that created the sun and the mountains and everything in this amazing and wonderful world. Silence connects us to peace and wisdom and joy and love and unlimited possibilities. I mean, even though we underutilize silence, that look how over and over the Bible tells us how important it is. In the book of Zechariah, it says, "Be silent before the Lord. In Isaiah, it says, in quietness and confidence shall be your strength. In Psalms 46, it says, be still and know that I am God. And in Kings, it says, listen to the still small voice. Jesus over and over would say, come apart and rest a while, because he knew the importance of quietness, of stillness, of solitude and silence. They did a study at Duke University, and they showed that 2 hours of silence a day in mice increased their cellular development. And so they said silence and our greater development are connected. I have no idea how you give a mouse silence or what greater cellular development is for a mouse, but they know at Duke. And if they said it at Duke, I believe it. And so, in an article I read, it's called This Is Your Brain on Silence. It was by Daniel Gross. He cited, interestingly, that Finland, in doing their little promotions about branding their country and in having people want to come, one of the things they list as one of their greatest natural resources is silence. And in fact, in that country, they set up places where there will not be noise, but that people can experience solitude and silence. Interestingly, also, every year they rank the happiest countries in the world. Interestingly, Finland is ranked as the number 1. I don't know if there's a connection, but I think there might be. So think about your relationship with silence. How do you feel about silence? What place does it have in your life? Does it have a priority? Does it have importance and value? How many people believe that silence is a powerful spiritual tool and practice? How many people believe, as much as you believe that, you also know there's plenty of room for you to better utilize and more frequently utilize silence? So last summer, I did a 10-day silent retreat at the Southern California Vipassana Center. Somebody right here said, whew, because that's what I thought too. I'd only ever done like 3 days of silence. And so 10 days of silence, I was a little curious, a little nervous, wondered about it. I knew it'd be good, but I didn't really know anything else. Well, I'll tell you, that 10-day experience was far different than I expected. It was much harder than I expected. It was better than I expected. It was more transformative and awakening and profound for me in my life and my practice than I ever realized it would be. I knew stuff about silence like we all do, but I had no idea going through that experience of silence of how amazing it was and how it would really transform me. So this morning, I just want to share with you some of the things that I've learned about the blessings of silence, some of the blessings I received. And we'll know a lot of these, but it is really worth revisiting and getting to know. The first area of silence was silence that comes from not speaking and really being more quiet and finding an environment that's quiet. Not only could you not speak at this place, they took your iPhone, they took your wallet, they took everything. There was no books, no reading, no pens, no music. I mean, there was nothing, no outside contact. You couldn't even make eye contact with anyone. There were about 70 people there, and there was a dining hall, a meditation hall, and a residence, and you moved in silence from one to the other. That even if someone was near you, you were right here. They just wanted you to be in silence alone with yourself for 10 days. Somebody said, how did you not speak for 10 days? And I'll tell you, it was easy. In fact, what was so fabulous about not speaking and experiencing silence is like everything just slowed down. Everything calmed down. It was quiet. I didn't even miss my normal addiction to my iPhone and not having it. It was just easy, less stressful, so much more calming. And I felt it was just really nice just to be able to relax and go deeper. It felt really nurturing. And a few things. One, it was really kind of cool being in a room with 65 people or whatever, 70 people who were all in silence together. That was really, really cool. Another thing that was cool was I felt myself being more not only at peace, but I was more present. I was more aware and awake. I felt more connected to myself. I felt more connected to nature. I found myself seeing and observing things I may not have normally done. I found myself listening and enjoying things. It was really an amazing experience. One of the things I really enjoyed was eating in silence. 31 meals in silence. But I'll tell you, you enjoyed the crunch of the lettuce even more. The smoothness and creaminess of the peanut butter. Sipping peppermint tea every morning. It was an amazing, amazing experience. You know, silence literally not only creates peace and makes us more present and engaged, but it actually creates some space that opens a path for us to be more inspired, to get levels of clarity and wisdom and understanding. It was truly, truly an amazing experience. That I believe that moments of intentional moments and purposeful moments of quiet and stillness are vital to a happy life. You know, when we hear music, and this music is fabulous, music is not just note, 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 note. It is note. Music is made beautiful because of the spaces between the notes. Life isn't just about doing, it is also about being. And it's finding that consistent balance that really makes it as joyful and fulfilling as it can be. So everybody knows King David, and the first thing, King David was a shepherd. Anybody know what was the second thing he was famous for? For what? Yes, a musician. Yeah, that was so good. The first crowd didn't get it, but you guys did. I love it. And then, of course, killing Goliath and then being anointed and becoming king. But one of the things he said in Psalm 131 is, I have cultivated a quiet heart. That I believe the amazing life that he lived and the things that he achieved and came through him and that he expressed and accomplished was because he created a life of quietness, of practicing quietness on a consistent level, and he was inspired with all the things he needed whenever he actually needed them. I have cultivated a quiet heart by regular times of silence. You know, there's a entrepreneur and a musical artist named Russell Simmons. He created the Def Jam records and did The Nutty Professor with Eddie Murphy. He wrote a book called Success Through Silence. How many people remember the TV show Dallas? J.R. Ewing, Larry Hagman. I was watching an interview with him many, many years ago, and he said that he had Silent Sunday. For one day a week, he did not speak. And initially, he did it because he had issues with his vocal cords. But then, even when he didn't have issues, he found that silence made such a difference in his life, he kept doing it every Sunday for 20 years. You know, I've made consistent times of practicing silence. On Thursdays, I don't speak to anybody. I just have my silent day. But it isn't just that, but in between, I will find ways to experience silence even for brief periods. Every time I microwave something and I hit that button for 2 minutes, I literally just close my eyes and just practice meditation and quietness. Anytime I'm in a doctor's office, I don't mind waiting because I'm always closing my eyes and doing some meditation. Sometimes even at a red light, I will close my eyes and meditate. And that might sound kind of dangerous, but don't worry, the person behind you will let you know when that light turns green. And so my question for you is, what ways are you willing to cultivate a quiet heart? In what ways could you develop a greater practice of this amazing gift and power of silence? It brings so much peace and wisdom and clarity. It's available to us if we're willing to practice it. You know, maybe instead of praying together at a family table, maybe a minute of silence together before. Maybe before meetings, you know, having a little bit of quiet time. But it is a powerful and amazing practice, and it behooves us all to take advantage of this amazing gift. Second thing I learned, and the great blessing from silence, was it taught me a lot about my own mind and how to better manage it and understand it. How many people ever meditated and your mind wanders off about the grocery list and what you forgot to do, and all the time it just keeps wandering. So let's say you meditated for 5 minutes. How many minutes would you say your mind wandered? 3 minutes? 4 minutes? 4 minutes and 55 seconds. You know, the mind wanders. We meditated for 11 hours a day. I never meditated for 11 hours a day. 11 hours a day of meditation. If your mind wanders so much in 5 minutes, imagine how much my mind was wandering in 11 hours a day. And it was amazing to see how the mind dances from one thing to the other. And it tends to dance in one of two things. It tends to dance to the past, things we regret or dislike or we complain about that happened, or fear of and worry and anxiousness about what's happening in the future. And it creates us to do two things. It's a Buddhist, they believe in that we either avoid or we get attached. And those things create a lot of suffering. You know, our mind, as wonderful as it is, can actually drive ourselves kind of crazy. Anybody ever obsess or overthink anything? You know, anybody? Any control freaks in the house? Okay. Two of us. I find control freaks don't want to raise their hand because it feels like they're out of control. And so it is really, really amazing what the mind does. Do you know of those 65 or 70 people, I think 10 people dropped out. And it was free and easy. And yet, sometimes the mind can dance around a lot, and it can be our worst enemy. Remember when the Apostle Paul said, "Do not be conformed to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." He said that we need to renew our minds. You know why we need to renew our minds so often? Because our minds get distracted very easily. Being a human being, the mind just wandered. That's just a part of the deal. And so we meditate and our mind wanders, and we get angry about our mind wandering. I remember after about 10 years of meditation, my mind would wander and I'd get frustrated and I'd say, "Come on, man, you're a minister. You should get this right." And we fight against that reality, that the fact is your mind just wanders. It does. That's a part of the game and the practice of being alive, and it's part of meditation. So it's not to expect it not to. The question is, how do I handle it better? How do I handle it better? And there are two sets of things. The first one is just acceptance. That's how it works. Every single person, from the Dalai Lama to anybody you can think of, everybody's mind works that way. Just accept and stop resisting and getting upset about it. And then have compassion for yourself. Don't beat yourself up because it isn't going well. And then the other two things are be patient, but be persistent in bringing it back, because that is an important and vital thing. Buddha once said, it doesn't matter how many times you forget, it's how many times you remember. It doesn't matter how many times your mind wanders, it's how many times you bring it back. Mind wanders, just bring it back. Mind wanders, except that's normal, just bring it back. Be patient, be persistent, and keep bringing it. And you know what happens? Eventually, when you keep bringing it back, is that you tend to drop even deeper into the quietness. The persistence eventually takes you deeper. And then you'll come out of it, and that's okay. Just keep coming back. Some days you'll have some great meditations. Some days you won't. And if it's 5 minutes of meditation and your mind wanders for 4 minutes, you've done 5 minutes of great work. You think it's just those moments we feel that profound connection. No, it is your intention and desire and the amount of time you put. In the book of Jeremiah, it says, this is the one qualification for meditation, an effective meditation. And here it is. It says, if you seek me, you will find me. If you seek me with all your heart. 5 sincere minutes of trying to go into the silence and seek that higher connection. Even if your mind wanders for 4.5, you've done 5 minutes of great work. 5 minutes well spent. Be gentle on ourselves, but be patient and be persistent. Sometimes we act like meditation and prayer and silence is some kind of hard, onerous thing we have to do. I've got friends who say things like, I get up and I meditate early so I can get it over with. It's like, oh man, I didn't meditate today. You know, it's like eating broccoli or something. It's like, we're connecting with the energy and the intelligence that created the sun. and the stars and the oceans and every cell of our amazing bodies and beings. Shouldn't that be an exciting thing? One of my favorite things in Psalm 37, it says, delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. When was the last time you delighted yourself in God? That's how the experience should be. It should be a delight. Even with the challenge of bringing back the mind when it wanders, that's a delightful experience. And I used to think when it said, delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. I thought, that's a smoking deal. I delight myself in God, and I get everything I want. It doesn't exactly say that, because I started saying it again. It kind of does, but it says, delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. That when you delight yourself in God, God will implant the deeper desires of what your soul is really called here to do. It's easy to sometimes want things from up here. But when you go deeper and delight yourself, Spirit will give you what is yours to do. Final thing is that silence can take us to deeper levels of healing that are important and vital. You know, they warned us that day 2 would be tough because you kind of recognize your patterns. And then they said day 6 and 7 will be hard. Because when you spend a lot of time in silence, you know what happens? Your stuff starts coming up. Ever had something get triggered, you triggered, and you said, hey, I thought I was over that. I thought I already dealt with that. I thought I already forgiven him, or whatever it is. So stuff that I thought I had done popped up. Stuff that I knew I had popped up with more intensity. And stuff that I did not know surprised me and came up. And sometimes we think that something's gone wrong, or it's bad, blah, 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 but it's coming up to be healed. It's coming up because our soul wants and needs liberation and peace and freedom. You know, in my experience in doing counseling and stuff, I find sometimes it's not until someone's in their 50s or even later, or maybe a little earlier, that they start to deal with some of the stuff that had been buried for years. It's easy to get a job and climb the corporate ladder and blah, 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 and family and all those important things. But sometimes when that's done, it's like your soul says, it's time to go a little deeper and heal the things that we avoided. Eckhart Tolle says that every one of us has a pain body, and it is an energy of unresolved hurt and pain and mistakes and regrets that we have that we didn't deal with and process, and it wants to be liberated. It wants to free us. So if I had a glass and dirt on the bottom of the glass, how would you get the dirt out without touching the glass? You pour water. And then even when it's overflowing, you keep pouring water. You know what happens? The dirt begins to come up and eventually come out. And it's like meditation is like the water. Silence is like the water. That sometimes stuff will start coming up and you say, this isn't right. I'm doing all this meditation and spiritual practice, and now I'm feeling horrible. All this stuff's coming up. And we think it's bad, and we stop. And that's what happens. When you stop pouring the water, guess what? The dirt goes back down. And that's when you have to keep going and keep going, because you're doing it right. You're just being liberated from the stuff that has sabotaged us on a subconscious level for a long, long time. How many people know David Hawkins, any of his work, Power versus Force? Letting go, the pathway to surrender. In that he says that many of us, when we do our spiritual practice and life's feeling good, we gotta stop it, because life's going well. But he says that's the time you keep going, because you, even when life's going well, keep practicing, keep letting go, keep listening, because you will unearth deeper things that will have quantum breakthroughs for you in your life. Amazing things will happen because you're doing that work and doing it well. Something else, the final thing that they talked about was the importance of equanimity. That silence creates equanimity. Because life is always happening and changing and different experiences. Kind of reminds me of this meditation student. He went to his teacher and he said, hey, my meditation's horrible. It's not working. It isn't going well at all. I feel distracted. My legs ache. I'm constantly falling asleep. It's horrible. Teacher smiles and says, don't worry. It'll pass. Comes back a week later, and he says, my meditation's great now. Things are going well. I'm so aware. I feel so peaceful. I'm so alive. It's just absolutely wonderful. And the teacher smiles and says, don't worry. It'll pass. And the fact is, that's life. Life is always changing. And we can't let our emotions go because certain things happen or don't happen. That we can develop equanimity. That's what silence does. It keeps us a level of groundedness. That whatever happens, you feel more centered. You feel more at peace through the entire experience. Because life is a tapestry. You know, it is like a buffet of different experiences. And we need to embrace them all. Silence helps us just embrace and realize that it's just all a part of life. Like whatever's going on in your life right at this very moment, it's no mistake. It's what's supposed to be there. Don't fight it. Embrace it and know that Spirit will guide you through it by going into the silence regularly, will guide you through it to whatever the great thing it's supposed to teach you or lead you to for your next and highest and greatest good. Blaise Pascal in the 1600s said this. He was a French mathematician and physicist. He said, all of man's misfortunes stems from one thing, man's inability to sit quietly alone and have inner stillness. Silence isn't something to be afraid of. It's something to get excited about and not only embrace, but practice so we can experience the amazing benefits. Be still and know that I am God is the same as be still and know the fullness of life. Be still and know the fullness of love. Be still and know the fullness of joy. Be still and know the fullness of wisdom. Be still and know the fullness of the unlimited abundance of life. So are you willing to make a consistent practice of the stillness and of the quietness and let your life be blessed in amazing ways by the power of silence? God bless you. Thank you.